And today's scientific research tells us that when a person gives a public speech or a lecture, 93% depends on his presentation skills, and 7% is the matter. 7% of the marks of the public lecture goes to the content, to the matter of what he speaks. 93% is the presentation skills, but natural, which involves body language, which involves modulation, gestures, eye-to-eye contact. Because when a person speaks, even his eye is speaking, even his hand is speaking. So I personally prefer a public lecture in which a person can present better, he can see the reaction of an audience, as compared to a TV talk which is speaking in front of a camera.
Dr. Zakir, you have delivered over 1,000 public lectures worldwide. How many TV talks have you delivered?
It's but natural, the maximum that I've given in my life is public lectures. As far as TV talks are concerned, maybe a few hundred, I don't know the number, but it will be a few hundred, maybe 300-400 TV talks I've given, alhamdulillah.
Does that mean that you prefer giving lectures and TV talks only and avoid being questioned?
No, as far as being questioned, I prefer the question and answer better than the public lecture. But being questioned by an interviewer and a moderator is different by being questioned by the public. I prefer being questioned by a questioner. That's the reason whenever I give a public talk, I prefer that the question and answer session is longer than the public lecture. Because a public talk or a public lecture is a monologue. It's a one-way traffic. In a question and answer session, it's a two-way traffic. It's much more interesting for the audience as well as for me. And it's challenging for me that I don't know what question the person is going to ask. So I prefer a question and answer session much better than a TV talk. And that's the reason when we handle question and answer session, when the program is organized by us or when I'm called by the host, I tell them, I prefer the question is asked live. I don't prefer chits. Because when someone gives chits, there are chances if you get maybe 30, 40, 100 questions, you can select what you want to answer. And then the audience may feel that, some questions Zakir has answered, some he hasn't answered. So I normally prefer that in a question and answer session, the questioner lines up behind a microphone and he asks the question live. So no one can say that I'm selecting what I want to answer. So whoever is first in the queue, in the microphone, he is the person who gets the chance. And I personally prefer giving an opportunity first to the non-Muslims, then to the Muslims, because they have a better right to know about Islam than the person who already is a Muslim. So that is the reason we prefer giving chance and opportunity to the non-Muslims. And I enjoy a question and answer session much more than the lecture.
How many TV interviews, panel discussions, or TV talk shows have you taken part in, and why?
As far as TV interviews are concerned, that also may be a few hundred TV interviews. As far as panel discussions are concerned, I don't know the exact number, maybe 50. Same with TV talk shows. I have attended many TV talk shows which are live, and I always prefer attending a TV talk show which is broadcast live, which is telecast live, in which a person's view cannot be edited. So I prefer attending TV talk shows which are broadcast live rather than which are recorded and telecast later after a few days, after a few weeks. As far as panel discussions are concerned, maybe 30, 40, I don't know the exact number, but close to that.
Dr. Zakir, is it right, as most people presume, that you prefer appearing only on Muslim television channels?
Yes, as you asked me that what is the reason that I prefer speaking on a talk show and a public lecture as compared to giving an interview or having a panel discussion. Where an interview is concerned, normally it also depends upon the intention and the integrity of the person taking the interview. And that more so ever is important in a panel discussion. The moderator is very important, because if the intentions and the integrity of the moderator are not correct, then there are high chances that the things you speak can be moderated, or it can be rather misrepresented. So what I really say, that the difference between a TV talk and a TV interview is that in a TV interview, the person asking you a question can ask you leading questions, which I've got no problem with, but sometimes they may not give you a chance to complete the answer. But a TV interview is far more safer than a panel discussion and a TV talk show. Because in a panel discussion, since there are many speakers who are there on the panel, maybe 3, 4 or more than that, here the intention and the integrity of the moderator as well as the producer of the show is important. Because if the moderator wants to promote a particular viewpoint which he prefers, he can give more chance to the panelist whose view he agrees with. And there are high chances that he can cut short the answer of the panelist who he doesn't agree with. So therefore, in a panel discussion, when the people are watching at home on the television, if they're not aware of the media, how the media works, they may not know what goes behind the scene. So the moderator can sway the panel discussion. And secondly, it's also important the view, the integrity, and the intention of the producer of the show. Because if the intention of the producer of the show is not correct, and he wants to promote a view, even if on the panel, if there's an expert who can prove the viewpoint of the producer wrong, in the post-production, he can edit the portion which he feels is going against his view. So when you see a TV talk show, you have to keep in mind that what is the integrity and the intention of the producer and the moderator. Because if you doubt the intention of the producer and the moderator and the integrity, what you see finally on the television, in the TV talk show or the panel discussion, can be edited. And there are many instances we can give where we can prove that how it can be done. For example, when you're taking an interview, and suppose someone asks me that what are your views regarding the policies of George Bush? And suppose if I reply that I do not agree with the policies of George Bush. In the post-production, you can easily edit do not. And it will sound in the show, I am saying I agree with the policies of George Bush. Actually, I have said I do not agree with the policies of George Bush. But on the show, it will appear that Zakir Naik is saying, by editing do not, I agree with the policies of George Bush. And if a person who's being interviewed, if he does not know the background of the media, and if he's shown his own interview, he may think, okay, it was a slip of the tongue. He may think, okay, by mistake I said, I agree with the policies of George Bush. So if you show his own interview, and if he does not know how the post-production is done, he will think it was a slip of the tongue. Actually, it wasn't a slip of the tongue. So that is the reason the integrity of the producer of the show and the moderator is very important. And this can even happen more in a panel discussion, where what can be done, that parts of the other panelists can be shown along with the person who you differ with. And he can be made to appear that he is agreeing with the view of the producer or the moderator. So therefore, a panel discussion is more dangerous as compared to a plain TV interview. So that's the reason I personally prefer giving a public lecture and a TV talk as compared to appearing on a TV interview or a panel discussion or TV talk show. But between the three, as I mentioned, I prefer a TV interview because there's less chances of editing. And even after you edit, if you have said everything correctly, there's less chance of manipulation. But if the intention of the moderator or the person who's the host, who's taking the interview, or the intention of the producer is evil, then there's little chance that you can undo it. In a panel discussion, the moderator has more flexibility of putting down the person he wants to put down and uplifting a person who he wants to uplift. So, a panel discussion, I personally prefer being out of a panel discussion unless I'm sure that the integrity of the moderator and the person who's conducting the show and the producer, it is honest and I believe in it. I normally prefer staying out of panel discussions.
Jazakallah, Dr. Zakir, for explaining that point. We understand this integrity and intention are very vital for you, but we are ultimately human. We may err in this judgment. Ultimately, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is absolute in this kind of understanding.